Over the years, there has been a lot of talk about the issue of racism and why African Americans continue to face racism in some of their communities. One movement has done more to bring awareness to the issues of systematic racism in Black Lives Matter, but up until this point have struggled to bring their message of ending the racial injustice against African Americans into the mainstream. That all changed in May of 2020, when George Floyd, a former security guard, was murdered by a white police officer with a knee to his neck, while following the orders of arrest at a traffic stop in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The incident captivated the movement, and within the next month, protests took place nationwide in multiple major cities in support of Black Lives Matter, and to demand justice for African Americans whose lives were lost as a result of racial injustice. The movement has also spread a culture of change, and has led to several areas of life to discuss ways to bring change in their communities and to help make African Americans feel more inclusive in those areas. One of those aspects is college sports. The NCAA has been known over the years to use collegiate sports as a way to promote diversity and to welcome all students of color and religion to compete in their respective sports, whether it's to just find something fun or to get to the professional level of sports. But like other areas affected by the recent movement, Black Lives Matter has also faced a discussion about whether or not the NCAA is doing enough to bring inclusivity in their sports, and its efforts to stop racism that college athletes may face on the field, just like off the field. I recently got a chance to speak to a few African American student athletes to talk about how Black Lives Matter has affected them and what their college can do to help make college sports more inclusive and welcoming to African Americans. Can you describe to me your reaction when you first saw the complete surgence of this movement, and how do you think that it has made an impact in sports in general?
I think the whole Black Lives Matter movement, it changed sports a lot, because like a lot of people just like won't tolerate a lot of things anymore now, you know, like for instance, you saw with Drew Brees, you know, he came out and said what he said and people took offense to it, you know, and now, you know, he lost a lot of fans, a lot of followers, you know. Then you have like the whole Black Lives Matter community against you now. Like, you have to be very careful what you say now, especially since since you play sports and you're a role model for a lot of people and you're not a person of color. Like, you have to be very like cautious of what you say now, and you're a role model for a lot of people. Like, they expect you to go out of your way now to make change in the communities and to just show support, you know, and show that you're with us.
Being Black in America, I mean, it's definitely prevalent in the community. It's something that we're definitely aware of. Something that's definitely needed. So seeing it spill into the sports, you know, environment, it was refreshing nonetheless to see it, and for, you know, the turnout that you do see, even though the backlash comes with it.
You know, it feels like, you know, we're not protected as much from anybody else. I feel like it's like we're the only people that has each other's backs and nobody else really has ours. And, you know, it's not, what I think is misconstructed about it is, you know, people assume that it's an hate group, or it's, you know, we're anti-white or whatever like that. And that's not the case about being Black Lives Matter. It's the fact that we've been fighting for, you know, racial and social injustices that we've never been served throughout 400 years. And, you know, we're fighting for that. So even like using football to my platform, you know, it's I even try to say, like, you know, like we need to be stretching.
I think the movement is more about like knowledge, just everyone gaining knowledge on racism or what affects, or just different prejudices, and like just our way of thinking, and like broadening our way of thinking. Because I think that personally, I think that we've all been pushed to thinking one way. We just all have to sit back and listen and learn more before we go out and just like say, oh, I reject Black Lives Matter movement or this, that, the third.
Well, I think with this, it's starting to like affect not just what happened like on the street between encounters between the police and Black people. It's like all aspects where racism and discrimination can be found. So like it could happen literally at school, it can happen in hospitals, it could happen literally anywhere. So I think that's what they're trying to point out, the highlight of this movement is to know like this is happening not just out here, and it's not like isolated incidents. This is happening everywhere across the country and the world.
These student athletes all share the same thing in common. They all play for Kean University and compete across a wide range of sports, including football, basketball, and lacrosse. But they all enjoy their experiences at the university and enjoy a sense of inclusivity and opportunities that their respective sports give them to help them become a part of a very special community.
I've had an amazing experience at Kane. Actually, Kane basketball is the first time I ever had a black head coach. Like, all my coaches have been white so far. So like, it's different. It's definitely different than like seeing like someone that looks like you in a high position telling you how to do. So like, it's completely different.
Everyone's accepting of who, no matter where they come from. So it's like, it's not really, and like, you don't feel like left out or like isolated in a way, but because they know that you're going to the school to play lacrosse, and that's what matters most to them. They don't really care. But not to say that they don't like notice that you're, one of like one or two black people on the lacrosse team. That doesn't matter, as long as like they accept you. And that's what they do. They treat you like their family, and that's what I appreciate most about Kane lacrosse the most.
Because I didn't come from the richest family, single mother, three kids, and it's been like that for as long as I can remember. So she did everything she could in her power to put us in a better environment. She always kept us in sports, just to keep us active. So, we weren't running around in the streets, doing crazy things, basically. And that's really what sports did for me. It just kept me on the right. It gave me a sense of discipline, coaches gave me that father figure, that I see growing up. And I mean, sports is kind of everything to me. Like, I don't know where I would be without it.
All sports at Kane have given athletes a chance to be an important part of today's society, and no sport at the university showcases that better than its football program, led by popular head coach Dan Garrett, who gives the players a chance to be themselves and to be open about the issues of society today.
Like, here at Kane, I can honestly say that, with anything, I never had, me personally, I would never hold my tongue anyway for anything that I feel is right. But Coach G, he definitely encourages you to, hey man, if that's how you feel and if it's what you're going with, then that's really what you have to do. You have to go with it. And he encourages open dialogue and really being one.
He's definitely a guy that gets it. He knows that he'll never be in the same shoes as us, as African Americans. But he understands, and that's like all we ask for. That Coach G has been the man through it all. He's always been big on, if you can do it in a respectful way, or show class humility about things, go upon about it like that. And but he's never been one to say, if you feel some type of way, you should stay quiet about it. If you feel some type of way, you should speak up, because that's the only way that's going to be able to get projected and and get out there. Like, you can't, closed mouth don't get fed. That's a saying everybody's heard before.
Coach Garrett's everything to that program, honestly. He's a father, a friend, a mentor, he's everything you ask for in a head coach, and he tells you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. He held a protest at his house, mid-May, early May. And then he said if players wanted to come out and stuff, he could. And players came out with posters, they were in front of his house, chanting Black Lives Matter, no justice, no peace. And he even went out his way to speak about what was going on with the George Floyd, what happened and everything. Like, he sent us like a long, massive text. We have football chats, and he went out his way to talk about it as well. Even though it was an uncomfortable situation for him to talk about, he still did, because he knew how much it would impact us, And then he even sent out a letter to every single college coach in New Jersey about what was going on and what they should do and how they should address their team and stuff. He sent it to every single college coach in New Jersey. And the culture, the program at Keene is great, Coach Garrett, he's a great man, and I wish I spent all 4 years at Keene, to be honest.
Each of these athletes have enjoyed their time at the university and have been able to become a part of a welcoming community that stands tall against all forms of racism. But not all of them have been able to avoid the troubling realities of the culture of racism, and for two of these athletes, racist incidents were all too common to them during the early days of playing their respective sports in their childhoods.
I went to school in in Newark, New Jersey. So, I played football, and, in the inner city area, we played a lot of, some teams that we played were, more Caucasian, I would say. And, I did have a couple of run-ins when I was younger, like a sophomore and like my freshman year. That, playing against some of those teams, I was called the N-word. And, it was sad to see that, I was, we're talking like 2013, 2012, that's still being thrown around. And I thought it was foolish, and it was really like ignorant.
I live in Long Island, New York, so it's sort of the suburbs, and like there are mixed like different wealth neighborhoods. So like there are like really rich neighborhoods, and then there are like more poor neighborhoods. I'm sort of in the middle. So sometimes my team would go out and we'd play like these richer neighborhoods. People in the stands would be yelling the N-word at us, like when we're shooting free throws and stuff like that. And like it happened as a regular thing. Like kids, they would probably get kicked out, but like they would still do it. That's pretty much all that would happen to them. They get kicked out of the game. And that was just a regular occurrence. Like it happened all the time.
Did that sort of bother you in a way? Did you feel like you could have done a lot more to put a stop to it yourself?
It definitely bothers you, but sometimes as a player, you don't really know what you can do, like what you personally can do. Because I can go out, I can tell somebody, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, and then they're gonna like, what really can I do besides? Like that's more of the schools. You'd have to get the school involved to do something like that, because what can I really do to force that person not to do it? Like I really can't do anything. It's freedom. Like they can say or do whatever they want.
And for others, being one of only a few black athletes in their sport, like Gregory Castor was in lacrosse, it can be a difficult challenge. But he thinks that thanks to the movement, race should not stop you from trying it out.
It's like letting people know that, like, hey, if you want to join the lacrosse team, but you're worried as being the only black person or a minority group on the team, is just that like the coaches, even like the upperclassmen, aren't going to like treat you differently as they would treat another player just solely because they're the only black person or the only Hispanic or the only Asian on the team. Versus, where they're not used to having, because there'll be years where they will not have a black person, but then there'll be like years when they do. So it's the consistency.
All of them do agree on one thing, however. The Black Lives Matter movement has given them more motivation to speak out about social justice issues in society today, and it has given them new meaning to know more about what professional and collegiate sports leagues can do to bring change in their sports and their respective communities.
I feel like diversity in sports is incredibly important, because when I step on the court with, say, like one of my white teammates, I'm not thinking, oh, he's white. Like I'm thinking, oh, that's my teammate, that's my brother. And like I've been built up with that since I was a kid. So like I've had white teammates that I've been able to open their eyes to things that I go through that they don't go through, just because they're with me and they see me as their teammate and not just a black person necessarily. Like breaking down those barriers.
If you see stuff happening, like if you see it, you gotta hold people accountable, because how people are gonna change if they're not, being held accountable. That's how you make yourself better as a person and even as an athlete.
It made a spark with me and my teammates. I've even seen, I was kind of not shocked, but I kind of was shocked. I seen, teammates that were, that are Hispanic and teammates that are even Caucasian, speak out saying like, this is wrong, like, and it's good to have that backup, like, that the fact that they can say it and they can understand it, it's a great feeling to have, because, they get it.
The environment curated. I mean, as we all know, the NFL is definitely, the minority is the majority. And for, only a few guys, even Colin Kaepernick himself, it shouldn't even be him having to, quote unquote, stick his neck out on the line for it to be, a thing of speaking out on social injustice. There are more Afro-American athletes in the NFL than any other race in there. And to only have a handful of guys speak out, it's definitely something that's going on behind closed doors that's not allowing these guys to speak out, because they have to live in this skin every day. So I say the environment, surely that's the change. That's what I'm looking for.
we had a protest here in Bloomfield. We had two actually. The first one, it was both were peaceful protests. The first one was in front of the high school, and people came out with their posters and we was, chanting Black Lives Matter. No justice, no peace. We were just out there showing our support for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But then the second one, it was a lot more people. Probably, I want to say like 4,000, maybe more. And we all met in front of the high school, and we marched down to the Bloomfield police station. And there was a good friend of mine, Matt Arnold. He had held it, and he was talking, and then he let people from the community talk, basically. And I actually was one of them. I had went out and told a little story of mine about being racially profiled, and I said I thank God that my best friend that was in a car with me, he was white, because if he wasn't, who knows what would have happened that day? Who knows if I would have still been here today, And I don't it did force me to speak out in my community, because I did have a story to tell. I'm always trying to spread positivity and peace. So I think the movement did kind of I felt a little obligated to speak out and show my support.
While Kean University has taken pride in promoting inclusivity and diversity in their sports, there are other colleges in the United States that have had a troubling history with handling some of the issues at their collegiate programs. Several collegiate athletes and students, just like the brave people in Black Lives Matter, have also spoken out demanding change within the culture of their programs. Some of them have responded by removing statues of past icons that have had histories of racism, renaming some of their buildings and stadiums, and promoting changes and proposals to ensure all African Americans are welcome in their sports. While it is a start, the students believe there is still more that can be done.
I think lacrosse doesn't get as much attention as it deserves as a sport as a whole, which I guess doesn't really help with the demographics. Because, basketball, one of the more diverse sports, baseball, it's a very popular sport which attracts people, has a wider audience. So I think that's just one of the reasons why it's not as because if you want to play lacrosse, it's very accepting for the most part. It's just hard to get, a lot of people into it from the beginning because it's an unfamiliar sport.
I'd really love to see more protests from everybody, because everybody's voice matters. If we can get everybody's voice to be heard, maybe change can happen more. You've seen what's been happening all across America with the protests happening, how some laws have been changing.
Even before every football game, they say they read to you they'd be no tolerance or racial slurs and this and that. They read the card before every game. Even in high school, they read that card before every game, and I don't know. It just has to be enforced more. It's there. The rule is there, but it has to be enforced more.
Creating that dialect is very important, because I feel like I can say whatever I want to say and they can be like, oh yeah, cool, but they don't have to really do anything. They can just say, I can say that I want this done. Oh, this statue makes me feel uncomfortable because of what it means and the history to my people. They can be like, you're completely right. We'll go talk about it with the board, and then nothing ever happens. I think they need to start showing that they're on board with the movement. If there's a racist statue and that statue is still actively hurting people to this day, then what is really the value of that statue? There's no reason for it to really be there. One
of my guys from Twitter, he said that being a college athlete really hurts him, because he can't be who he is outside of that, as far as speaking out on social differences and stuff. And I just had to tell him, if you can't do that at a program that you're potentially going to, and he was going through recruiting because he's coming from junior college, so I told him, if you can't express that with whatever university that you're going to, that university definitely doesn't need you, and they need to do some reevaluating themselves. So it happens in those ranks, and it definitely has to be addressed, and it just has to be open dialogue, like I said, because even if it's not malicious, or if people want to not speak on the conversation, it's actually doing more of a hindrance than anything. Try to keep it under wraps because it's prevalent and it's happening. So we got to speak on it. We got to make something happen about it.
For the first time since the massive civil rights movement in the 1960s, African Americans have been given a chance to share their voice again, and with the support of their peers and their communities, the Black Lives Matter movement is only just getting started with its movement for change in America. And with college sports being one of many areas that are jumping on board with the movement, it feels as if America is beginning to recognize the issue that racism is still alive and well, and that things are starting to go back in the right direction in bringing equality and justice for all. There is still a long way to go before the message is fully achieved, but all the athletes here share the same message that everyone else is. You are not alone, and equality and justice can be reached when we all come together.
Just be cautious of surroundings, like always try to like, if you go somewhere, go with another person, never be alone, because you never know. It's just a crazy world now, you just never know what can happen nowadays. So you just always be aware, you just know your surroundings, know who you're around, and just be safe, honestly.
To keep fighting, really, because that's all you can really do. Like, if you give up, nothing's gonna change. So this fight's been long before I got here, long before my mom or my father's been here. Like, this is generational pain. So it's gonna take all of us to continue this fight for anything real to actually change.
I would just like to say that I believe that message is about just holding people accountable. If people are going to be racist, it's your duty to literally just dude, this is not how you should be thinking. If you don't want to change your way to think, then no one wants to be around you. And if that's not enough to change them, then they should not be around.
Don't be afraid to speak out. Be better, do better. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So it's definitely, it's an us problem. I mean, it's a world problem, but it's really prevalent. In our culture, we see it every day, so we can't be afraid to hold our tongue and stick our necks on the line and push for better tomorrows. And that we'll never lose that fight if we never choose to surrender. So just keep speaking, keep fighting, let's keep pushing it.
We want to help change this so it doesn't happen to somebody else's brother, uncle, niece, aunt, mother, father. We don't want it to happen to anybody else. We're tired of happening now, so we're gonna keep fighting. We're gonna keep supporting you no matter what through this thing, because we can't keep having the same thing happen over and over and over again. So just stay strong. It's hard, but change is coming. It's coming sooner than later.